Hello and welcome to Wayward Wine. Back in September of 2019, I was lucky enough to go up to the Okanagan Valley of British Columbia, Canada, as part of the Fine Vintage Program's WCT Level 4 Diploma Program. We toured various wineries throughout the Okanagan, hitting up various regions and learning about viticulture and winemaking to better prepare us for the part of that WCT Level 4 exam. And luckily, I was able to come back to the States with 2 cases of wine that I had found from various places, a mix of things that I thought were pretty outstanding or at least interesting. And the Okanagan is a fascinating place. It's huge. Napa Valley, you think, is big and pretty amazing. Honestly, it's only 30 miles from north to south long. The Okanagan starts at the top of Washington, and the lake runs 84 miles north, almost up to the 51st parallel. And in between those 84 miles are a plethora of microclimates, from extremely cold and cool, producing Riesling, Gewürztraminer, if they can, all the way through to further southerly things where you might expect more things like Syrah, Merlot, Cabernet, Cabernet Franc, akin to what they can do in eastern Washington, with a fair amount of body, fair amount of alcohol. But truly, this is a cool climate, continental climate, and because of that, the acids are still going to be fairly high and well retained. The alcohols will never be too outrageously huge because it just gets too cold at night. The diurnal shift is too huge, and thanks to that, though, the wines are super refreshing, well balanced, and akin to things that you might find from more continental parts of France, for instance, or in Germany, or in Europe in general. So great finesse coming out of there. And one of the wineries that we went to was more or less smack dab on the west side of the lake, across from Kelowna, and it was called Quails Gate. Quails Gate Winery, a beautiful spot with a nice tasting room veranda overlooking the lake there, with vines rolling out below it. Quails Gate was started in 1989, but the Stewart family had been growing things there since 1956. In 61, they planted grapes, and the next generation in the 80s, come 89, started Quails Gate Winery. So still family owned. Quails Gate now fairly moderately sized winery. They're growing about 200 acres worth of grapes and producing thousands of cases as well, thanks to that. Stylistically, very clean, very varietally correct. Everything from, I'd say, Chenin Blanc to Chardonnay to Pinot Noirs, a few Syrahs, Merlot, but the focus is mostly white. Beautiful Chardonnays as well. The Chenin I thought was very crisp, but everything had a very, very just straightforward, clean style to it, and very good value as well. One of the better values in the valley that we found. This wine in particular that we're featuring today, that I brought down, is their dry Riesling, which was under 20 bucks American. So really good value for an estate dry Riesling. Let's try it. It's 2018 in vintage, and everything you'd expect from Riesling. Beautiful kind of crunchy, salt crunchy lime margarita there. The primary note there is lime. Really, really intense, nice concentration to that. Definitely medium plus intensity aromatically. And that saltiness is there, siltiness to it. It's got a slight grassy note to it as well. You get a little bit of verbena and dry, really, really fresh herb there. I wouldn't say dry herb at all. And at the core of it, there's a nice little bit of bright Anjou pear as well. Nice little bright Anjou pear. So there's some pleasant fruit there, not just acidity, which is pretty nice. And a little light honey as well. I would definitely not go very rich on the honey, but there's a touch. Ping! Like a little bell. It's ringing. Dry, for sure. High acidity. Mouth-watering. Saliva-gripping thing. Light in body, too. I mean, this is only 12.5% alcohol. So it's about, I'd say it's medium minus body. It's fairly clean, bright, refreshing. This is something you could definitely drink half a bottle of and not feel too guilty the next day. The palate matches much of the aromas as well. Nothing, no big surprises here. A lot of that like fresh lime margarita, the salt's there, the verbena's there, the slight fresh herbaceousness is there, and that pear is there too. It's got a nice little plump, little ripe but white pear, not a like red pear or anything like cooked or stewed or anything like that. And a little drizzle of honey going on as well. And again, that's thanks to the lake. The lake allows them to grow grapes like this because it's a beautiful heat sink. Even though they're as far north as they are, it helps to modulate the temperature, extend the growing season a little bit, and reach those levels of ripeness that you want Riesling to have. You don't want Riesling just to be acid and water. You want it to have some alcohol, you want it to have some body, and to have a little bit going on. The length is long, still tasting it, still tasting it, still tasting it. So, I mean, yeah, it's clearly very good quality, very good value. Example of what the Okanagan can do with a classic variety like Riesling. So, thanks for watching, and keep drinking.